Hello, and welcome to the Homeschool Sanity Show, your prescription for happier, healthier homeschooling. I'm your host, Dr. Melanie Wilson, Christian psychologist turned homeschooling mother of 6. Let's get started. Hey homeschoolers, do you have teens or will you soon? When you are homeschooling teenagers, the day they leave your home looms large. Whether they plan to attend college, begin working, or start their own business, you want to give them the best preparation possible. My guest today is going to help us prepare our kids for whatever lies ahead. But first, I want to thank my sponsor, CTC Math. Are you looking for a new math curriculum? CTC Math specializes in providing online video tutorials that take a multi-sensory approach to learning. Favorably reviewed in Kathy Duffy's 102 Top Picks and the Old Schoolhouse Crew Review, the lessons are short and concise to help your children break down concepts and appreciate math in a whole new way. The lessons are taught the traditional way, not to a test. Each one of the video tutorials is taught by an internationally acclaimed teacher, Pat Murray, who is renowned for teaching math concepts in a simple, easy-to-understand way and in only a few minutes at a time. Using a multi-sensory approach, having the combination of effective graphics and animation synchronized with the voice of a friendly teacher together with practical assessment. This three-pronged attack makes learning so much easier and more effective. Even students who struggled with math are getting fantastic results, and ones who were doing okay before are now doing brilliantly. Now for today's topic, preparing teens for life after homeschooling. My guest today is Carla Marie Williams, prolific author and homeschooling mother of 6, whose new book is called Teens Unleashed. You'll want to grab your copy and also give a listen to the excellent interview I did with Carla on unschooling. I'll include the link in the show notes. Now here's Carla. Carla, thank you so much for joining me again on the Homeschool Sanity Show. I am excited to talk with you and to talk about how we can prepare our teens for their futures. That's something that I have been involved with in my own family. I have just 2 teens still at home, so I still need help with this. But before we jump into our topic for today, I would love to have you remind my listeners who you are. So tell us about yourself, your family, and we'll get into the homeschooling piece later. But if you could just tell us about you and your family.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me back. I am honored to be on your show again. My name is Carla Marie Williams, and I am a wife of almost 24 years and a mom of 6 amazing kids, 4 boys and 2 girls. They are ranging from 18 down to 11. And so, yes, they are right behind one another. And I am the president of Be Bold Publishing and an author and speaker. And my desire is to really inspire families to do big things and to learn and enjoy learning alongside their families.
Well, you do a great job at that. I follow your social media accounts and I come away inspired, and I've been doing this for a very long time. So I think that speaks highly of you and what you are doing for the homeschooling community. So let's jump in and start talking about homeschooling, because I've had you on the podcast before talking about unschooling, and I thought it was just a wonderful interview. I'm going to put the link to it in the show notes for this episode, so you can be sure to find that and listen to it. But to begin with, can you tell me about how you approached homeschooling? What was your initial approach, and then how did that develop over time?
Oh, wow. It seems like so long ago yet. So, it just depends on the day, whether or not it seems a long time ago or just yesterday. But we started homeschooling way back, I believe, it was 2008, 2009. And we were militant, school at home, box checking, work, death by workbook, the whole thing. I mean, it was brutal, and we did not enjoy it. I did not enjoy it as mom. It was all I knew. I knew very few people that had done it, and I just did what the only person that I knew was doing, and we hated it. My kids were being tortured. My husband got sick of hearing about our lackluster days. And we did that, believe it or not, for 3 years because, I look back on that and I think that because I never enjoyed the structure or the setup of traditional schooling myself, that I assumed that learning wasn't supposed to be enjoyable anyway. So when my kids were enjoying it, I thought, oh, this is normal. Right. I thought, well, I didn't like it. They're not supposed to like it anyway. It's a necessary evil, right? And so, it wasn't until I started doing a little bit more research and recognizing like, wow, this thing really could be exciting. This could be enjoyable. We could be smiling at the end of the day instead of crying. It really could be something so much more than we were, allowing it to be. And I started doing my research and reading books and watching videos on unschooling. And some of the things I thought, these people are out of their mind. I thought these people have got to have a screw loose to even consider something like that. And then what happened, my aha moment was when we decided to adopt 3 more children. We brought them home. We already hated what we were doing with our oldest 3. And so we brought 3 more children home. And I thought, I am going to be rocking in the corner in a straitjacket if I try to continue what I'm doing with 6. This is just not going to work. And so we stopped because we wanted to kind of mold as a family when we brought them home and not just shove information down their throat. And so we just paused for a moment for relationship building. And it was probably about a 6-month period. By that fall, I had planned on jumping back into our traditional way of doing things. But before that, we began to see some things that I had read about and seen other people talk about. But, those are the people I thought were crazy. I was noticing my kids teaching themselves things. And I was noticing my kids teaching each other things that I would have never thought to put on my checklist, or things that I would have never thought to expose them to, or that they would have never found in our workbooks that we were doing. And I thought to myself, like, wow, so this is real. This actually does happen. And so, as my husband and I were home during that time, we started to pay attention and have some discussions and say, let's dive in, let's do this. And I will say, disclaimer, that we don't consider ourselves radical unschoolers. There are some things that, we just felt as far as our household that we needed to hold on to, like chores for a family of 8, and things of that nature. But as far as learning, and I must admit, it changed the way that we parent as well, because we found it almost impossible to embrace an unschooling lifestyle, so to speak, with our kids in the learning realm without considering how we were being very authoritarian in other areas that didn't make sense anymore. And it was just a wake-up call. So it didn't just change for our kids and their learning environment. It changed us as parents and had us really second guess, the choices we were making, and, why we were saying no to things that very easily could have been a yes. Just lots of little things that we found ourselves doing or repeating that we experienced in our own households growing up. So it changed everything for us. It was a complete game changer. So now we've been unschooling for 8 years.
Wow.
And it has been an absolute joy. Doesn't mean every day is roses, but I cannot imagine doing anything different at this point, having seen how much growth and maturity and things my kids have accomplished as a result of us letting go of some of the most, things that we thought needed to happen, had to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so.
that's just excellent. And, I like the philosophy that you have about it. I asked you some challenging questions, I would say, about unschooling in our first interview. And I thought that you answered them so well. So if you have objections to unschooling as a philosophy, you are really going to want to listen to that. But once you had teens, when your oldest was a teenager, did you wonder if you should revert to a more traditional approach? Like, okay, this child needs to take English 1 and Algebra 1 and, that kind of thing.
It's funny. We were so far in and so die hard by that point that we know we were so, how can I put, for lack of a better expression, rebellious against the system, so to speak, that first started. But I will say that the beginning of every year, the fall of every year, I have to turn off all of the pages that are not unschooling pages, because that creeps in and you see everybody looking for, panicking and looking for the latest, greatest curriculum that's going to change their child's life forever. And I have to tune all that out. It's not as hard as it used to be. It's very easy for me to just, move on by. But when she became a teenager, she's 18 now, I was trying to think, why wasn't I concerned at that point? I think it's because she wrote her first book at 13.
Mm-hmm.
So, and by the time she was 16, she had written and published 4 books.
Wow.
And so I think that I wasn't very nervous with her because I saw what path that she was on, and I saw that she would be able to be successful on that path, regardless of what everybody else thought that she needed to be doing. She was definitely carving out her own way, and she was doing it well. Her brother, who is 14 months younger, was already, involved in aviation at that point. And so both of those, they were my 2 oldest, and we launched them or graduated them in 2020. So they were already on a path long before they hit the teen years. And that path was so defined, and they were so focused on doing their best, that we were pretty confident at that point.
All right. So, my question for you, Carla, is because I'm sure other homeschooling moms have asked you this question. What if I am unschooling and my teen isn't showing this clear direction and this path and this ambition, to accomplish something? What do you say to those moms?
I say that your job at any point, if you have a kid that is not clear or is not specific on any, one interest, because you might have kids that have several interests, and that's fine. Our job as parents is not to pigeonhole them into a career, because my oldest 2, their direction at any time. It's just that they were very specific. But if you have a kid that is not specific, and they have 4 or 5 things that they love doing, they haven't really decided what direction they want to go, you just ride with them.
Mm-hmm.
When they change, you change. When they develop, you develop. And you continue to be a facilitator of whatever it is that they're into at the time. And I let people know this, that if you have a kid that doesn't have a specific interest, first of all kids do. Every person does.
Yep.
We're all created completely unique. And so it's impossible to be alive and not have specific interests, purpose, direction, passion. If it is not prominent, it's because they haven't seen it or experienced it yet.
All right.
And so the job of the parent is exposure, random exposure of as many people, places, cultures, ideas, careers, industries, books, genres. I mean, as much exposure as you can give your child, no matter what age they are, the more likely they're able to say. So, and I know that's been a little hard with COVID.
Yeah.
As far as, field trips and getting that kind of thing. But if you have the internet and you have a library card, that's exposure right there.
Right.
You have the ability to expose your kids to all kinds of amazing things and people and industries and things that they've never considered looking at and exploring. So I wouldn't be afraid if I have a teen that hasn't found their thing yet. We have adults that haven't found their thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You don't know your thing until you've seen it, you've touched it, you've experienced it. And so the kids that end up, with more being exposed to more of a variety of things are more likely to pick up on what makes them tick, the things that they enjoy the most. And so I wouldn't be afraid. Out of my 6 kids, I have a couple, we have no idea, what direction they're going. But whatever their current interest is what we invest in and support at the moment, because we know that there's no lesson, no class, no resource that we purchase or invest in that is going to be wasted. It's all a building block and it's all heading somewhere. So don't feel like, I spent, 3 years investing in piano lessons for my child, and I just assumed we were going to be seeing him at the Kennedy Center 20 years from now, right?
Right. Yeah.
Now he says that he would much rather create beats digitally. And, and, a parent panics like, we do all of this and we expect, and then we're pigeonholing. Then we're giving them a purpose instead of acknowledging God's purpose for their life, right?
Absolutely.
And we don't want to do. And so invest and encourage their current interests, but do not pigeonhole them into anything, and continue as much as possible to give them as much exposure to new things and new ideas as possible. It's going to click. Something's going to click. And when it does, you will know and your child will know.
Well, that's excellent. Well, okay. So here is my question for you. Let's say you have a child who was like me when I was a teenager. For some reason, we had a medical encyclopedia in our home. I don't know where we came across that, but I was fascinated by this. And I initially thought that I wanted to go to medical school and become a psychiatrist who is a medical doctor who can prescribe medications, and not a talk therapist, which is what I eventually decided to do, to go straight into psychology. But so let's say you have a child who's very, very interested in medicine. Would you have your child focused in on doing math work and science work that child would need as preparation for college courses then?
This is how we approached it, because similar to that line of work, my son in aviation, math and science were very important. And so the way that we approached it was that if this is something that you desire to do, then you tell us what you want to use, what method, what resources, and what assistance you need from us to help you learn what you need to learn to go on that path. And so that gives them, some of their work may look more traditional. However, it's still led by them. Mm-hmm. And so my son, of his own accord, took Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and geometry. He took, 3 years of chemistry, 2 years of physics. And this is an unschooler, but he's so passionate about the direction that he wants to go, and he dove into it. Mm-hmm. We didn't force him. We didn't say, take this. We didn't say, we allowed him to choose his resources, to do it at his own pace, and to just absorb the information in a way that he enjoyed versus us, keeping checks and balances on him. And so a lot of times, now the flip side of that there is accountability. There are times when I ask you, when's the last time that what's the last, chemistry class that you took, or whatever the case is. Mm-hmm. And I talk a lot about that in my book, but we try to make it as autonomous as possible, where they're in the driver's seat. So this is the thing. College is their on their path, and they go to college. There's mom and dad aren't going to be there to motivate them and to force them to do anything. It's going to have to be they're going to have to know how to be a self-starter. They're going to have to know how to do things and stay on the path that they want to stay on to accomplish what they want to accomplish. And so we try to start that now. If this is really what you want, these are the skills you're going to have to develop. This is the information that you're going to have to know. Do you want it bad enough to do this? Mm-hmm. And I put it in their court.
Okay.
And then we support them. We do keep them, like I said, we keep them accountable for the things that they said they wanted to do. We check in with them to see how they're doing. We celebrate with them, as they meet milestones and things of that nature. So I've known unschoolers go to college at the same rate, as someone that is a traditional homeschooler or a public schooler or, private schooler.
Excellent.
That it's not a either or. It's not, okay, if you unschool, you can't go to college, or you won't have what you need to pursue traditional careers. It's just simply not true.
Right. Well, that's just excellent. So tell me about the path that I know, I believe it's your daughter has really taken, which is not that, like science, more science focused path, right? Because she, at least, I don't know, maybe this isn't her career path, but I know that she has a business, and you have been supporting her in having her own. Is it a business or is it a ministry, Carla?
Which daughter?
Well, I know, wasn't there something where she made like jewelry or something and you were helping her?
Well, that's my youngest daughter. She's 14.
Oh, okay.
And she is she designs and sews like handcrafted handbags, accessories, and
okay. That's what I was thinking of. So when you have a child who is maybe wanting to go more, I apologize for the audio issues that we're having. Sometimes it's like dragging and distorted, but I still think that you can hear the essence of what we're saying. So we're just going to keep going. But what do you do then to support a child who's going to be wanting to take more of an entrepreneurial path in their lives?
We start now. We don't wait. With anything that my children, choose to do, we start as soon as, you know, they find, they decide that they're interested in it. And yes, they can change at any moment. We don't pigeonhole them into that. But for entrepreneurial children, and I have several, 3 that I know of for sure, we begin to help them recognize the different aspects of business. So for instance, right before our call today, we received an order, and it was a first official order from an online retailer that she'll be supplying her handbags to.
Wow.
And so one of the things that we did is I showed her how to create an invoice. I showed her how to calculate in her time, her materials, and all of those things into her pricing. We work on inventory. So there's a lot of math involved. We worked on packaging, all of those kinds of things, and excellence and customer service. And so all of those things involved in servicing a customer and providing, excellent products and things of that nature. So everything that you can think of running a business entails. We don't do that for them. Mm-hmm. My husband and I have been in business for many, many years for ourselves, and we've run other people's businesses. And so we have a lot that we can share with our kids along the way as they're on their journey, but we try to get their hands in there and not do it for them. Mm-hmm. And it includes lots of math and lots of communication and lots of public speaking and all the things so that they know how to represent their brand and their products and things of that nature. So it is an education in and of itself.
Yeah. And, I'm assuming, Carla, just because I keep referencing, I see some of the things that you're involved in online. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming that you have to do some work in researching like resources and, what's required, like if your son wants to be in aviation, mm-hmm. I'm assuming that you did some work so that you could be of help to him. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of things, it depends on what your child is interested in, but I thought it was pretty far-fetched to be able to find a program that would let him fly at the age of 12. But we found it. Wow. And it was right in our community. And so he's 17 years old, about to be a licensed pilot, but he's been flying since he was 12. And of course, that it takes a lot of boldness, mm-hmm. because you have to put yourself out there. You have to ask a lot of questions. You have to let people know what your kid wants to do. Sometimes, in order for someone to say, I know a person, or I heard of this program, or, those kinds of things. If you stay quiet and just try to go with who yourself, a lot of times you're going to fall short. So it took a lot of research about the things that my kids want to do. Mm-hmm. Hoping that somebody somewhere has heard of something that will benefit them in the things that they want to pursue.
Right. The way you describe it, it sounds a lot like coaching to me. Like you take on more of a coaching role, where you agree with that?
Absolutely. I would say more of coaching than a teacher. Mm-hmm. I find myself doing more coaching and more facilitating, an environment and providing of resources than I do actual teaching. The teaching comes down when they run into a situation where they need a body of knowledge they haven't learned. And I pull out maybe a math workbook and say, okay, this is how you would need to do this. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. But most of my days are coaching and trying to give them hands-on opportunities to exercise the things that they want to do. Instead of just reading it in a book, I want them to do it. The learning being in the doing. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Well, I know that you have just released the book Teens Unleashed. Now, which number book is this for you?
Number 6.
Number 6. And in what period of time? When did you write your first one?
2.5 years.
2.5
The
years.
first Homeschool Gone Wild, 2.5 years.
Wow.
So September 2018. By the end of this year, I'm shooting for 10, but we'll see.
Wow. Well, you really model for your kids how to follow your passions and, do things that you're interested in, learning, growing. And so I know that has to have a huge influence on your kids. But tell us more about what we're going to find in the book Teens Unleashed.
Okay, so just to back up slightly, with Homeschool Gone Wild that you interviewed me of before, that was about our journey and how we set up a learning environment in our household. And I was only able to go so far with it because I felt like I hadn't really jumped into the teen years yet. And I promised in the back of that book that a book on unschooling teens was coming, but I was determined to wait until I graduated my first 2. I wanted to have hands-on real experience before I shared, about the teen years. And now I have 6 teenagers. I feel like, okay, I have something I can share now.
Right.
So coming forward to Teens Unleashed, this book basically shares how, a lot of people think that unschooling younger children is cute. It's cute and it's delightful. And you think about, frolicking through a field of lilies and just enjoying life and hugs and kisses. And then when it comes to the teen years, people freak out. They have PUP, or what people call periodic unschooler panic. And they're like, okay, now we need to order, 8 boxes of curriculum and sit down at the table for 8 hours a day and, only come up for water and use the bathroom. And I wrote this book to help people see how freeing and how precious those teen years are and how to maximize their kids' learning environment during those years. And some people think that unschooling younger kids is easier. I kind of feel the opposite. Mm-hmm. Because when I was unschooling my younger children, it was chaotic. And because nobody was really going in any particular direction, I was just strewing and exposing and doing random activities all day, every day with 6 kids. And it drove me nuts. But I did it anyway.
Yeah.
Now, I won't say it drove me nuts. I take that back. But I was exhausted at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. Let's just put it that way. Because it was so random. Mm-hmm. And there were so many of them, I was outnumbered. So rich, because even if they haven't found their thing, you kind of know them mm-hmm. as a person. And you kind of know who they are and who they aren't. And it gives you real direction in helping them become their greatest, who God called them to be. Versus just randomly trying to figure things out. And so I have just found that the more focused a kid is during those teen ages on the things that they love and the things that they don't, it's easier to expose them to things that that they're going to be, they're really going to enjoy, or get their hands, get hands-on experiences for them that they wouldn't be able to do when they're younger. Mm-hmm.
For sure.
So it's been thoroughly enjoyable for me. I mean, I have 2 that have launched and are making their way in the world. And then I have 4 that at home that are almost 15, 14, 13, and almost 12. And seeing, who they're becoming. Mm-hmm. And uninhibited. And these 4 have known nothing but unschooling their entire life. whereas the older two had a little mix of things. But so in this book, people will get a view of how we do it, but not just how we do it, how they can, and how they can approach it. Not necessarily a step-by-step, because every family is going to be different. So I can't tell your family how to unschool if the dynamics and the interests and the passions are nothing like my family's. Right?
Right.
But I can share with you the thought process and how to view, certain activities and the ways of thinking that get you where you want to be.
Excellent.
And so I also share how we keep records.
Okay.
How I kept specific records for all 6 kids that made it extremely easy to create a very simple transcript. I share how we created the transcript, how we kept the records, how we issued a diploma, how we celebrate. It's just packed full of all kinds of gems for those that are afraid to let go during those teen years, whether they have been unschooling up to this point and they don't know if they should go back to doing something different, or if they're just pulling a kid out of school and they want something drastically different, they'd be able to benefit from the book.
Fantastic. So what I like to do, Carla, is bring some clarity and sanity to my listeners by giving them a simple step that they can take, because if they feel like I do, they're inspired by what you're sharing and they want to take action. And I know that they want to get your book. So first of all, just tell us where we can get that book, Teens Unleashed.
Teens Unleashed is available in paperback as well as ebook form on Amazon.com.
Fantastic. And I will put links to that in the show notes. So we want people to get your book, but then what would you recommend as a first step for them to take to create this kind of learning environment for their teens?
The first step that I would suggest is really a mindset, because any major change that you take in your life is going to take a mindset shift first, because just jumping into something isn't going to do it for you. It's a mindset shift. And so what I would say would be to think about the fact that there is only one of your child on the planet. And if they are indeed that unique, then their learning experience should be just as unique. And if they start there, they can build upon that for each of their individual children, where they get the learning experience and the hands-on experience and the exposure to things that help them be who they uniquely are, not a carbon copy of the checklist that you print off online.
Yeah, right. Well, that's fantastic. And I know that you will continue to inspire my listeners to take this journey with their teens, but I want to make sure that they can connect with you online. How can people find you on social media?
Awesome. They can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook under Carla, Karla, and the Sensational Six. So that's Carla and the Sensational Six on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook.
Fantastic. And again, I will include those show notes. Carla, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to share with us. And
it's always a pleasure.
Well, it is for me too. And I just wish you all the best with this new book.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Carla inspires me. If you're not following her on social media, you'll want to do that today. I'll include the links to her books and social media accounts at homeschoolsanity.com/teenlife. Thanks again to CTC Math for sponsoring this episode. Join me next time as I discuss mistakes in homeschooling. Have a happy homeschool week. Thank you for joining me. Happy, healthy homeschooling can be yours. It begins with one small step. Let's continue the conversation on social media. I'm at Psycho with Six. This has been a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network.